Have you ever wondered when the Gospel according to Spiritism was published? It came out in 1864, and here's the original subtitle, explaining Christ's moral teachings in harmony with Spiritism and how they apply to life's different situations. Interesting, right? This already says a lot about the vision and care of Allan Kardec. But before we go deeper, who exactly was Allan Kardec? Actually, that was just a pseudonym. His real name was Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, born in Lyon, France, on October 3, 1804. He studied in Switzerland with none other than the famous educator Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, becoming his disciple and collaborator. Kardec was a man ahead of his time, fluent in several languages and with a broad, universal culture that touched almost every field of knowledge. In Paris, he promoted educational reforms that strongly influenced teaching in France and Germany. He wrote grammars, math books, advanced pedagogical studies, translated works from English and German, and even gave free courses in chemistry, physics, astronomy, and comparative anatomy. Truly a scientist and an active member of the intellectual community of his era. But the world knows him mostly as Allan Kardec. Guided by spiritual insights, he organized one of humanity's greatest works. He published in sequence: The Spirit's Book, 1857. What is Spiritism? 1859. The Medium's Book, 1861. The Gospel according to Spiritism, 1864. Which was originally called The Imitation of Christ. Heaven and Hell, 1865. Genesis, 1868. After his passing in 1869, friends compiled unpublished texts and released posthumous works. He also founded the review Spiritist Review in 1858 and, that same year, created the Paris Society for Spiritist Studies, which he directed until his death. All of this helped spread Spiritism around the world. Now here's something interesting. The translation we're studying here is based on the third French edition, which was reviewed and corrected by Kardec himself and published in 1865. The translator into Portuguese was Guilherme Ribeiro, a civil engineer and polyglot praised by none other than Rui Barbosa, one of Brazil's most respected intellectuals. Ribeiro also translated other key Spiritist works and directed the Brazilian Spiritist Federation for more than 2 decades. Another important detail, when revising the third edition, Kardec made deep changes. He removed some parts, added new ones, reorganized chapters, and even renumbered paragraphs to make the text clearer and easier to read. It was a meticulous, almost scientific effort. Now, here's something many people don't realize. Kardec didn't just receive ready-made books from the spirits. It wasn't like he heard a voice and wrote everything down directly. There were always mediums involved. He gathered messages from different places, compared them, analyzed them carefully, and then organized everything. The spirits guided the work, but Kardec shaped it. And who coordinated all of this? The spirit called Spirit of Truth. Who was that spirit? Nobody really knows. Could it have been Jesus? Maybe. Could it have been a group of elevated spirits? Also possible. What matters is that this higher guidance directed the entire project. That's why the Spirit's Book carries that title. The content came from the spirits, while Kardec was the human compiler. And did you know that the name Allan Kardec came through a medium? In a previous life, he had been a Druid priest in Gaul and was known by that name. He chose it again to separate his educational and scientific work from his Spiritist mission. Ironically, today he's far more known by the pseudonym than by his real birth name. Now, let's look at the book's preface. It begins like this. The spirits of the Lord, who are the virtues of heaven, like an immense army moving at the command of their leader, spread over the earth like shooting stars, illuminating paths and opening the eyes of the blind. The Spirit of Truth speaks of a grand mission, to restore the true meaning of Jesus' teachings, which had been distorted and used by religions as tools of power and control. He says the time had come to lift the darkness and humble human pride. Think about it. For centuries, churches chose only 4 official Gospels and left out the so-called apocryphal ones. And even those 4 were altered over time. To give you an idea, there are Bible versions that actually put these words in Moses' mouth: "You shall not practice Spiritism." But how could that be? The word Spiritism didn't even exist back then. It was coined by Kardec in the 19th century. Moses couldn't have said that. In reality, he was condemning the careless consultation of Egyptian fortune-tellers, not the serious communication with spirits. But over time, so much was twisted. The preface continues in a tone almost biblical, calling men brothers, and urging them to love one another to do the Father's will. This solemn language was typical of that era. It gave more weight and credibility to the message. And why is this text right at the beginning? Because it sums up the true character of Spiritism and the purpose of this book. So that's it for today. In the next episode, we'll dive into the introduction of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'll see you in the next episode.